All right, welcome everyone. Thank you to joining us. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to everyone who is putting your name and your information in the chat. I'm very glad that you're here. Thank you to everyone who's joining us on YouTube and Facebook. I'm going to go ahead and just get started with the introductions. My name is Geneva Blackmer. I'm the Interim Executive Director for the Interfaith Center at Miami University. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that seeks to unify people through relationship building, dialogue, and social action. And this workshop is made possible by a generous grant from the McCullough-Hyde Foundation and the Interfaith Center's Building Healthy Communities, Strategies and Resources for Faith Communities project. So today I'm very happy to be joined by Sherry Martin, who has served as the Executive Director of TOPSS since November of 2021. A lifelong Oxford resident, she earned her degree in management from Miami University and dedicated 18 years to her career there. As a proud mother of 4, Sherry devotes much of her free time supporting the mission of TOPSS and reflecting her deep commitment to the community. So we're very happy to have you here, Sherry, to lead us in this conversation about food insecurity and what we can do in our own local communities in Oxford and beyond. So with that, I'm going to turn over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm trying not to be too distracted by loving all the comments in the chat. I'm Sherry Martin, Executive Director for TOPSS. TOPSS stands for Talawanda Oxford Pantry and Social Services, in case you didn't already know that. I also chose to sit under a fluorescent light, so forgive me that I look like this. Before I get started, I just wanted to say that this, food insecurity is such a complex and broad topic. I tried not to go down too many rabbit holes when I was putting this presentation together, but it's very hard. Everything is so intertwined and connected that sometimes it feels like we're going in circles. And it's hard to put everything in a straight line. So I made slides that I'm going to share with you. Some of them are text heavy. Just bear with me. I'll try not to bore you to death. Let me share. Well, I can get it too. Oh, here we go. All right. So, I think you all started putting who you are and what organization you're from in the chat. Thank you for doing that. It's nice to have a sense of who's here. At the beginning here, I'd like to do a poll before we get started. Where did I'm so sorry.
You need to launch it?
I think I got it. So the opening poll here is completely anonymous. Can you see it there?
Yeah, it's up.
All right. If you don't mind, if you have ever experienced food insecurity firsthand, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to answer, but again, it's completely anonymous. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute and let you do the poll and then reshare.
I think everyone has answered, actually. It says 100%.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So I'm going to share the results with everyone. It looks like we have 25% have, 75% haven't, but that's good. That's good. Because no matter what your situation is, if you've experienced food insecurity, if you've worked with food insecurity, if you know someone who has, we all have a part in solving the issue. Let me get back to my slides. Okay. Um, all right. I'm going to, all right. So, sorry, I missed one. Okay, so food insecurity, what is it? Food insecurity is a lack of reliable sources to enough food for an active, healthy life. It's not necessarily the name or the same as hunger, which is the, feeling, physical feeling of discomfort from the lack of food. And food insecurity does cause stress. Um, whereas hunger is a feeling that we all feel from time to time. Food insecurity is just not knowing where your next meal is coming from. Um, 18 million US households experienced food insecurity in 2023. The 2024 stats won't be available until the fall, but I thought that was a good starting place. And what does food insecurity look like? Parents skipping meals so kids can eat. We see that a lot. Actually, I had a dad come in here and say that he hadn't eaten in 2 days because he was giving all of his food to his daughter. Um, so, so that's an extreme case of food insecurity, and there are different levels. Families choosing between rent, utilities, and food. So sometimes people will have to choose, what bills they're going to pay and still be able to afford food. And then the one food insecurity that most people um, seem to be like, it's almost like you expect it, is a college student that can only eat ramen until they get paid again. Everybody seems to accept that and think it's fine, but that is a form of food insecurity. Um, let's look at myths and realities of food insecurity. Um, I wanted to go over some of the common myths and misconceptions about food insecurity because I think it's important to start from a place of understanding so that we can have compassion. Um, because it's easy to assume and judge when it comes to food insecurity. And most of what I'm talking about is food insecurity from my experience working here at TOPSS and from what I know from talking to people. A lot of people think that if you're food insecure, you must be starving. And that's not always the case. Um, Many people have food that they keep since canned goods are easy to access, and actually a lot of pantries, including ours, give out canned goods and dry goods. A lot of people who've experienced food insecurity will kind of stockpile those things. And they do have a cupboard full of, sometimes our delivery drivers will come back and say they helped somebody put their food away who had mobility issues, and their cupboards were full of cans. And that it's true that you can have food insecurity and have a bunch of cans because you don't have food that's accessible for you to eat, or you don't have the right kinds of foods to sustain yourself. And that's why offering fresh foods is important, like milk, bread, produce, because canned goods don't always sustain people. Another myth is that only unemployed people experience food insecurity, and it's true that unemployed people experience food insecurity, um, but so do people who are employed, and we'll dig into that a little bit deeper on the next slide. Um, but we have a lot of people who come into the food pantry and they just can't believe that they have a job and they can't make ends meet. Which is always surprising to me because like I see it so much, but I think people are kind of in disbelief that they are the person that needs to come and get food because they're like, I have a job, my partner has a job, but we're not able to pay the rent and pay the bills and have money for food. So I think it's something that kind of surprises people when they realize that they are food insecure. Um, but a lot of our people do work and still can't make it, which unfortunately is the reality of the world that we live in. Um, The next myth, if you're not familiar with SNAP, it's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, what used to be called food stamps. Um, and there are different levels. I think in October, the rate in Ohio went up to 200% of the poverty level. So people who are making double the federal poverty guideline for their household size can get SNAP benefits. Um, so 66 well, sorry. The 66% of SNAP recipients fall into one of these categories of working children, seniors, or people with disabilities. Um, and then the statistic that surprises most people, but it doesn't surprise me because it's a lot of what we see here at the pantry, is that 40% of food insecure households don't qualify for SNAP at all. So almost half of people who are food insecure don't qualify for SNAP. So they have to rely on food pantries or churches to help them. Um, and also people can be on SNAP and still experience food insecurity because the SNAP benefits are often too low for their household size, or they run out before the month ends. A lot of the SNAP, although I think it's changed because I think people are starting to get them at different points in the month, but it used to always be the first of the month your SNAP would reload. And I'm not sure why, if the government can get it to load once a month. I'm not sure why they can't split it up and do it weekly, but it's all once a month, and then you have to like ration it yourself for the month, which is hard for folks to do most of the time. Um, Moving on. So another myth is that food insecure people don't prioritize nutrition. And that's not what we tend to see here. Um, Many people do value the produce, the healthy foods. It's just that they're more concerned with what they can access, and healthier foods are more expensive. A lot of the health foods that people get from here from the pantry are produce and like whole grain foods that were rescued from Walmart or Kroger, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a bit, but um, I think a lot of our families do prioritize nutrition and they want the healthy stuff. It's just that they can't always afford it or access it. Um, Another thing that I hear a lot is that we shouldn't have anything unhealthy or sugary foods or treats. Um, I feel like food can be a comfort. Um, and it's so true that if you're part of the 40% who don't qualify for SNAP and you have kids, you are buying things to sustain your household. So you're buying things for sustenance like bread, milk, meals for dinner, and any kind of snack, like whether healthy or sweet, is a luxury that you probably can't afford. Um, about a year ago, we had somebody come in and we had, for some reason, I think we had just a case of frozen pizzas, and a young person came in. I think he was probably like 20, early 20s, and just like started crying and said he hadn't had a pizza in years. Like he couldn't remember the last pizza he had. So I think we take for granted and think that people of a low socioeconomic status, when they eat bad, um, I feel like society looks down on them, whereas if somebody with a higher status eats poorly, we don't necessarily look bad on or look down on them. And I think that happens a lot in society with a lot of different things, like um even just like drinking alcohol or drug use. We tend to like if they have money, you want to send them to rehab, and if they don't have money, you basically like kind of want them to be in trouble. Um, I'm digressing, but there's a certain attitude that we have toward people who have money and do things that we don't agree with, or people who don't have money and do things we don't agree with. And there's a lot of judgment put on um, families who struggle to afford food if they eat anything sweet. Um, And so I just wanted to point out that sometimes that's a luxury they can afford, but also, I mean, everybody deserves a treat, right? Um, that's what I think anyway. So we covered a lot of misconceptions. And before we go on, I wondered if anybody has any questions, which you can speak up or put it in the chat, whatever. Um, no rush. If you don't have any questions, that's fine. Um, have any, do any of you see like myths or misconceptions about food insecurity that you think are perpetuated in society? Anyone? No. Um, I'll go back to my slides. Oh, wait, what does that say?
I was just telling them that they're
Oh,
welcome
I'm sorry.
or to comment in the chat. Okay. We have some comments coming in now, I think.
Yes, I agree, Megan. There's a lot of judgment and criticism, and more of so of that than any action to help. I agree with that.
I mean, I think we've all heard the argument that people who receive SNAP benefits should be drug tested and things like this.
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, um, yeah, I don't, well, I could go down a rabbit hole on that too. I mean, this could have been a series, I think, of food insecurity. Um, but I'm gonna go back to my slides. Okay, so a lot of issues that we see are that the food systems in our country are just kind of out of whack. Um, our food system is built for profit, not fair distribution. 30 to 40% of all US food is wasted, billions of pounds per year. Um, and food insecurity rose 13.5% in 2023. I mean, there's so much food that's available and still there's hunger, which is just amazing. If you stop to really think about it. Um, Despite these challenges, organizations like TOPSS are working for solutions. So I want to talk about how we fight food insecurity. So we fight food insecurity with weekly stable food access. Again, the part of food insecurity or part of food insecurity is inconsistency. So as much support and consistency as we can offer helps people. Food rescue and waste reduction. We are rescuing wasted food from Kroger and Walmart and redistributing it to as part of fixing that broken food system that we have in this country. That's actually like one of the most time-consuming things that we do is taking the food from Walmart and Kroger, and our friends at Kiwanis bring it Monday and Friday. And then we have little rescues throughout the week. We also rescue sandwiches from Starbucks, and Moon Co-op gives us some food every Monday. And then it's kind of like for most of the stores, they're giving us the stuff that they would throw away. So we have to sort it and pick out what we think is still good, and redistribute. Um, our wraparound services are another way that we fight hunger. So TOPS offers rent and utility assistance, and this is mainly to keep people housed and prevent eviction and homelessness. But in doing these things, we're also creating stability for folks when they're more stable, they have less food insecurity. Um, and community partnerships are a way that we fight hunger. We at TOPSS feel that we are nothing without our community partners. And we'll dig into that more in a few slides, but by partnering with other organizations and churches, we're creating a stronger network for our community. And then removing barriers and reducing stigma. This is so important. Some folks worry that being too open or not selective enough with our clients will lead us to giving food to someone who doesn't really need it. But the fact is that the more hoops people have to jump through, the more we will lose people who actually really need it. So instead of excluding anyone, we try to be as open as possible, so that to food. And reducing stigma. So we try to create a welcoming and judgment-free environment. And we try to be open about food insecurity. We have lots of good conversations here with our clients. Some other organizations, I mean, we try to honor people's confidentiality. That's one thing, but as in privacy, that's important. But as far as like being open about food insecurity and trying to change the way we talk about it, is so important, because if we're too good about it, or if we don't mention it, people don't realize that other people in the same boat, and they feel like there's a problem with them, when really we know that it's systems and not people. So we don't just hand out food, we work to build solutions. And on that note, I just wanted to share a little bit of our impact in 2024. We serve 200 households, and we're a town school district. That's roughly 500 individuals per week, and we're open 4 days a week. And you can see from the chart here that in 2022, we had almost 600 people that year, and it's just gone up quite a bit every year since then. Last year, we were like 3 people shy of 1,400 people for the year. So, and then you see like a breakdown of our service types. We do delivery, mobile pantry, in-person shopping. Chunk here is curbside shopping, which my predecessor and who I think it might be with us, it started curbside shopping during the pandemic so that people could be in their own space and be safe from getting sick. And the people seem to love it, so we've just kind of gone with it and kept it. And even though we're making a difference, we still have some major challenges. So I wanted to go over those as well. The challenges we face. An increased demand, but food and donations don't rise at the same rate. So food donations and monetary donations have gone up like steadily over the last 3 years, but they've not really kept up with the need. The need is rising so fast. And fresh food is ideal, but a high demand means sometimes we have to prioritize availability over nutrition. So basically, like, we have to take what we can get so that we can feed people. Stigma and barriers will still keep many people from accepting help, which is unfortunate, and we try so hard. Actually, one of the school social workers helped me, especially in the rural areas. It seems like people do not want to accept help. They feel like they're imposing. They don't want to ask. They don't want to. There's like a little bit of a pride maybe. And people have this idea about who we're helping. They think it's, some person that is some greedy ask for help all the time, with the case either. But one of the school social workers told me when we're dealing with rural folks that one of the tactics she used was like trying to, and how we have such like an overabundance of some of these foods we have to get rid of, and that they're actually like helping us out, and that has worked a little bit, but we're still working on trying to destigmatize and get people to help if need it. And then another challenge is SNAP and government funding shifts that could push families toward food assistance. And we scheduled this talk before there was some legislation and some things that are happening. Like I think there's the budget that's been proposed will cut SNAP benefits tremendously. There was a bill that cuts fresh foods to food banks, will directly affect our food bank. We haven't seen all the fallout from that. I think some of the things take effect in July, and then I think some of them take effect in the fall. So we're trying to find ways to make sure that our people have fresh food. Kim Medley, who's also here, has a garden in the back, and she grows some beautiful, gorgeous produce. And then, but of course, we serve so many people right now. Our garden doesn't quite meet that need either. Let me see, what's the next one? Okay, so what actually helps? Consistent food sources and sustainable donation. So if we can find consistent sources and donations of food, that helps us out. Better community-wide coordination. Francis, who's on this call as well, just put together a great proposal for neighborhood food drives. We'll start working on that, so you'll start to see some stuff come out about that. And great example of community-wide coordination for helping individuals in our community that need the help. Advocacy for policies, long-term solutions. So, I mean, there's local and state federal decisions that affect the people that we're talking about here. So any advocacy that you can do, full client-centered solutions, that's the key, is us not deciding what they need, but asking them what they need and letting them lead. And then just avoiding the pitfalls of stigma. So what doesn't help? Empty criticism and unrealistic expectations. One of the things that I see a lot is I've heard from like community members or people, maybe not so much the volunteers, but people that kind of witness what's going on. They'll be like, you're giving these people food, but somebody out here is smoking. Well, we know that addiction is real, and some people are just in the place that they're in. And I find that to be empty criticism. I mean, if people are hungry, but they have, other things going on, we try very hard not to judge and to encourage moms and staff to not judge in that way. Assuming education alone solves the problem, we can educate people as much as we want to about, budgeting or finances or whatever, but as we've talked before earlier, there's a system that's set up against people. So we can educate all day long, but not going to solve every problem. And pushing efforts that don't align with real needs. That's always a concern. We want the efforts to align with what people actually need. And this was just a little blur. I wanted to give a little shout out to all the people. I mean, we received so much help from the community. That we live in a bubble here in Oxford, and we kind of do. And sometimes that bubble benefits us. This community is so giving and so caring. There are community organizations and churches that really keep us going. Could not exist without community support. Other pantries have come to tour our pantry and they ask us like, how do you get people to volunteer? How do you get people to donate? And the truth is we don't really have to try very hard because um, Oxford and the Telemonte School District are it's full of compassionate people with energy to put toward solving problems. So it's great. It's a great place to be. Um, and we know that all of these people that are involved, all the churches and the organizations, are part of TOPSS. Um, so I have one more poll after this, but for final thoughts, food insecurity isn't about food. It's about dignity, access, and stability. And together we can create solutions that last. And at TOPSS, we provide more than meals. We provide relief, consistency, and hope. So if you are interested in helping, there are a lot of ways you can do that in your own circles, own um, communities. But you could also partner with TOPSS. You could partner with us. We have a lot of community partners. You could volunteer. You could help fight the stigma. And ways to help fight the stigma are to kind of change the narrative around food insecurity. Um, the main thing about food insecurity is just changing how people look at it, less of like a charity or a fault of the person, and normalize help and educate people about the real causes of food insecurity, systematic causes that keep people uh, in a loop of insecurity. Um, you advocate, like I mentioned before, you could get involved in movements, uh, or you could fundraise, or you could do a food drive. Um, I have one more poll that I wanted to do, but I might mess it up. Um, Geneva, would you be able to do the poll?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So do you feel like you know more about food insecurity after this presentation or about the parts that we talked about? Um, yes, somewhat. No, I need more information. And I mean, all answers are welcome because there's a lot more information that we could share.
Sherry, there was one comment that came in from Joanne Gearson about the Cincinnati Gleaners. And yes, the TOPS has received loads of produce from the Gleaners. It was particularly important when Miami University had the farm operating. And so we still do some when there are farms nearby, but I also want to emphasize that a lot of the local farms around the pantry donate a ton of produce. So they during the growing season, they do much better than the Tops Garden does in providing produce for the clients.
Yes, thank you, Kim. Um,
And there are a couple more questions coming in the chat, but I think we just had a hand up
yeah,
from Francoise. Did you want to unmute?
Good evening. Practically, it's morning here. Thank you very much, Sherry, for your presentation. For me, it's an interesting presentation because I see food security in another way, donating food to give to those that are in need. In my organization, I also really fight food insecurity, and it's a real problem. We are not opportune to have people donate food like I see you receive, but we reach out to see whether we can get some help to buy food and give the population to prepare. And then we are also seeking to train them on backyard farming, on organic backyard gardening, so that they can have food ready. And also, we are also having looking on a solution like having a dehydrator, where, for example, you are talking a farmer can donate food to you. When we receive that kind of donation one day, or from time to time, we buy the food ourselves, we dehydrate it, we put it in a powder form that we can use when there is lack. So there is a kind of work. So we also started encouraging them, since we've trained them on organic gardening. If they grow their okra and it is much in that season, we can dehydrate it so that when it will be a season of lack, they will still have okra to eat, which is a very good vegetable. And so we are looking forward to really writing a proposal that can take them from not only us giving them food every month, because most of those children are really malnourished and stunted. It is a population where we've been working with for over 3 years now. So we carry out a kind of holistic care, solving their problems as it arises. But this problem of malnutrition is really, really present, and it has affected the children's education. We had to even bring in basic literacy to help them, but some of them have a lot of dental problems, which was diagnosed that it is malnutrition. So we saw that the solution is giving them food for immediate relief. But now we are looking forward to design a project to train them how to do some farming, some gardening around themselves, even using hydroponics, this new system of gardening, so that there is vegetable readily available. And then now, if they can grow it and it is in much, we can see how to preserve it for them and then make sure that they always have. So I seen your approach that you receive food. I really asked myself, can we really get such an approach here? People don't even have enough for themselves. Talk less of giving you food already, maybe from shops and that. So in our local way in the community, we're really trying to see how we encourage them into doing some gardening. Meanwhile, we also still continue to look for partners that can really support us in relieving families. Presently, we are working with about 35 families because we put a stop. If not, if we open hands, we have more than 100, 200 families that are really, really having. Some don't have food to eat. Just 2 days ago, I was with a family. The woman is breastfeeding. And by 6 p.m., we were talking. She said, I've not eaten since morning. And I don't even have food to eat. But she's a breastfeeding mother.
Yeah.
But I kept seeing her going to breastfeed on and off. What is the child really taking? She herself, she doesn't have. From my midwifery background, I know that she needs to eat healthy. for that child to get the healthy thing also from her. So we really, really have a lot of uh, uh, issues with food insecurity, and food insecurity can really be solved in a multifaceted aspect, but that is how we look forward to solving it. But when I see your presentation, I'm also amazed the way you are handling food security in your own context, which is really, really great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about dehydrating food, but that's a good idea. I am not a gardener at all. And Kim knows that. She runs our garden. But yeah, that's wonderful that you're teaching people how to farm or how to garden. That's wonderful. Um,
I think that we have some questions in the chat, quite a few actually as well. The first one, what are some foods that are needed on a regular basis, and are homegrown veggies an option to donate?
yes, of course. So on a regular basis, we just try to keep pantry staples. So things that are accessible to kids that have to make their own meals would be like canned pastas or cereal. Cereal is always a good one for kids. They can feed themselves with it. And then we try to keep like pasta and rice and just your regular canned staples. But we can anything that anybody brings us, we can put to good use. But the main things we work toward are cereal and some of those pantry staples, peanut butter, soups, canned pasta, things like that. And yes, stuff from your garden we will gladly take, and people will take it. Usually produce is the first thing to go here. That's what we run out of. So yes. Stuff.
Second question, any idea about the overlap between your clients and the people who visit the little free pantries?
I don't know. Question. Because I don't think anybody knows for sure who visits those little free pantries. I see some stuff there sometimes. It looks like it might have come from here because people are sharing the stuff that they get from us that they can't use. But no, I don't know if there's an overlap there. That's a good question. And I could talk to the Coalition for Healthy Community about that and see if they think there is, but I don't know. I don't know if I could be certain about that.
Regarding
And
the, sorry.
go ahead.
Regarding the addiction topic you brought up and wraparound services, does the new combination of TOPSS and the Family Resource Center facilitate cross referrals for needs like that? And have you seen an increase in individuals seeking help?
I don't know that we've seen an increase in individuals seeking help. But yeah, but we do, since we do have wraparound services, that's a good question. We do have a referral system, and we are working on. We just met with Access Counseling, and they have some addiction services, and they're going to be coming to TOPSS once or twice a month. We just have to work out a day that they're available, and that will be good access to for our clients to addiction services or connection to addictions.
Are you able to identify and meet the needs of individuals with special dietary needs, like vegan, gluten-free, dairy, or nut allergies?
We have a form that we give people for curbside, and they tell us if they have special dietary needs, so that we can change in the way that we also ask them if they have access to refrigeration, stove, microwave, can openers, things like that, so that we can give them food that meets their needs. But we also, if they say they have special dietary needs, we do try to keep back anything that comes in that's like gluten-free or vegan or dairy-free or nut-free. We try to keep a good stock of that stuff when it comes in. We put it aside for those people with the special dietary needs. Yeah, because that, I mean, That's a hard one if you have special dietary needs, but you don't have the funds to purchase those items. And that's a common issue because most of those items are more expensive. So that's a good question.
Are there any protocols for families who want to remain confidential? For example, families with children who do not want to be seen at TOPSS due to fear of being seen by their peers.
Yeah, so they can register for services on our website, we have an intake form, and we do offer delivery, and the deliveries are taken by mostly volunteer delivery drivers, so in their own vehicles. So it can be as discreet as people would like, and they can still have access to food. Yes.
The last question in the chat has to do with whether you or the Moon Co-op consult with potential farmers. Michael Gill says he has a farm that is rented out for feed crops, and he would rather grow food for people, like a Catholic worker farm, but doesn't know anything about farming.
That I am going to be sending my information to share with everyone in an email. So yeah, that's a good question, and maybe we can connect on that and talk more about it. I don't consult. I don't personally consult with any farmer. We have a couple farmers who would just drop off things here randomly, but we don't have like any kind of system or anything set up formally. But that's a good question.
Were there any other questions? We'll open it to the floor now. I think I've gone through all the ones in the chat. And like Sherry said, I will be sending a follow-up email to everyone with her contact information and additional resources that she'd like to send out to all of you, as long as the recording of today's program. So.
Regarding the question about the farm, I would say that there are some faith communities in Oxford that might be interested in something like that. Like the Presbyterian Church has a particular focus on food production, and there's some people who might be willing to volunteer to manage a part of that land. It would depend on access to equipment and things, but that might be one place to go. And the faith communities have been also very good at donating items to the pantry.
Yes, they have. And we get a lot of stuff from the faith community, and we get a lot of produce from the Hopedale garden.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I think Oxford Presbyterian would probably be interested in that. Are there any other questions? Feel free to unmute and ask a question, or to write it in the chat.
Yes, I want to ask whether anyone that needs that comes that you give, or you already work in a particular community with some people, or you are in a place where I may be passing and I just see the place and I just come in. I don't know how you select your needy.
So yeah, we advertise on social media, we connect with the social workers at the schools, and then yes,
Okay.
we're here, and people can come door, people can come up for services. Our front window has like the hours of all the different kinds of services that we offer, and our phone number. So a lot of people, when they first connect with us, will either connect through our website, or they'll call us asking for help, and then we can help figure out what
Okay.
services meet their needs the best.
Okay, so it's open to everybody.
Yeah, We've advertised that it's for the Talawanda School District, but if somebody can make it here, we'll give them food. We might be able to offer them the financial assistance or the other things, but food we can always help with. And we only deliver within the Talawanda School District.
Thank you.
Are there other questions?
Any other question?
Question in the chat. Are there referrals from the Miami food pantry?
Oh, no, I was saying, I wanted to say to, I know Francoise is from Cameroon, but I just wanted to say how sad I was that our current administration had stopped the Food for Peace program, because that was the one venue by which a lot of people were not just provided food overseas, but in some ways, food was sent overseas, monetized, and then provided money to support food security. So it was a big contribution that this country made to so many nations. And I remember working in different places and seeing that food coming in, and it made a big difference. So it was really sad to see that program go.
I agree.
Yeah, it's when you're faced with those needy, it's really, really hard. Yeah, but we're hopeful. We're hopeful that we'll still get some support and be able to help them correctly, because those children need to eat good for their
Yes.
growth, for their health, for their education. You need good food.
Yeah, and Nancy asked if we get referrals from Miami. I don't know that we get referrals from Miami. When we get grad students that come, we get a lot of grad students, and when they come, we try to connect them with Miami just because we know they can get probably services that maybe even something beyond food, they can get help through Miami. So we do some referring to Miami, but I don't know how often they refer people to us. It's a good question. Yeah.
Cool. We're coming up on about a half hour past the hour now. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. I know some people had to go at exactly an hour, but I just want to ask one more last time for those remaining on the call. Were there any final questions or comments before we end the call? Reverend Bati, did you just put a hand up? I'm not sure. But maybe he was just moving. Okay, not seeing or hearing. No, Reverend Bati, do you have a hand up? Am I seeing that right? You're muted.
Okay, I want to ask if Sherry, please, do you have other programs apart from the food security program?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, do we have other programs?
I am visible. Hello? Is I visible? Hello?
Yeah, we can see and hear you. Did you have a question, Reverend Bati?
Yes, I have.
Your connection is not very clear.
A
Uh,
little bit.
oh, yeah, hi. No, it's okay.
It's a little better.
Connection is not clear.
It's a little better. Maybe could you put the question in the chat? We're having a hard time hearing you.
All right. No, no. It's okay. I will put that. It's okay. You go ahead, please.
Okay, Sherry, did you want to answer the earlier question?
The services besides the food assistance would be we do the rent and utility assistance to try to prevent eviction and homelessness. And we also have some services for the unhoused as individuals. We have a cold shelter in the winter. And then we try to help people get their documents. We know a lot of unhoused people need birth certificates, IDs, things like that in order to get housed. So we help with that, and we connect people with Job and Family Services and Ohio Means Jobs to try to help them get what they need to be successful. What are our volunteer needs? We do great when the Miami students are here, but especially next week during spring break and then in the summer when they're gone, we will need a lot of extra hands to fill in the gaps. Right now, especially like next week and over the summer, we'll need help on Tuesday evenings, 3 to 6 for curbside. And then any day of the week, we could use help delivering food boxes. So those signups are on our website, and I can also include that in the information that I send Geneva to send out to everyone.
Yeah, it would be great if you could include the volunteer needs as well as kind of your food item needs and how people can donate. I think that would be of interest to people who registered. Reverend Botsy, I'm going to give you one last chance to try to ask your question if you want to.
Yes. I
Okay.
was saying that Kim, she told about that some lands are available in the churches or in faith communities that can be utilized very well. But since there is a need for the awareness to the community and to the peoples, and that they come forward. One thing more, when we say about the junk food, which are not good for health, it can be banned from the stores. I don't know if it's possible or not. It's a commercially talk. But I think I know the junk food is not all only organic food and everything are good. Although it's my first time, what I said previously. So in the next meeting, I can talk more. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I want to thank Sherry and TOPSS for being willing to participate in this workshop and offer your expertise. And again, to McCullough-Hyde Foundation for sponsoring this series. And to all of you for participating. I will get an email out with all of the available resources and opportunities, a recording of the program, and yeah, anything that Sherry you would like to pass along to everyone who is here today. So thank you all again for your time. And yeah, sorry, did you want to say a closing word?
Just thank you.
Great. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are.